In this video, we're going to continue with the analysis section. We're going to look at the last part of the analysis section that we require, and that is 3.1.4, specify the proposed solution. So here we need to, if we look at 3.1.4, specify the proposed solution, previously we have looked at aspects of the problem which make it suitable for a programming solution. Then we looked at examples of existing solutions to similar problems. Now we find ourselves here at the final part, which is specify the proposed solution. So it comes in two parts, but one of those parts I break into two as well, so you might call it three parts. Specify and justify the solution requirements, including hardware and software configuration if appropriate. And then identify and justify measurable success criteria for the proposed solution. So the first part of that, requirement specification for the solution, including hardware and software. For your program to work, will the end user need any specific hardware and software? So for Java, because we're going to be programming Java, they might need the JVM. In fact, they will need a Java virtual machine installed, so they'll need, and so that means they might need a certain amount of RAM, and they might need a certain processor standard. You need to do a bit of research and identify that. You might also turn around and say, well, they need headphones as well, or they need a special type of mouse or something. So you need to think about whatever hardware and software the user requires. I'll mention to you now, the user doesn't require NetBeans and stuff like that. This is not about what you need to build the program, it's about what they need to run it. The second part of that, part A, if you like, the second, how I break it down, include a more detailed final listing of the solution requirements. That is the functional requirements. Have you developed these by yourself, or did you discuss with the end user? And then the last part, success criteria. Define a clear set of measurable success criteria where each one is justified in relation to the stakeholders or research that you've carried out. So feedback from the center, reports to centers, where candidates had only vague objectives. So this feedback is all about the success criteria. And there's some examples there. My system must be easy to use, my game must be fun to play, my system should load quickly, and so on. They tended to not only drop marks in the analysis, but also later on. Time spent on good quality measurable objectives pays dividends further on in the project, as they will form the backbone of strong testing and evaluation sections. Let's look at the stuff that it says in brackets. It says there, my system must be easy to use. That doesn't make any sense. Easy to use isn't measurable. We're after measurable success criteria. My game must be fun to play. Well, there's some things that you play, some games you play that you find fun that I wouldn't. My system should load quickly. That doesn't mean anything. Yeah, you might think it's quick if it's less than 10 seconds. I might think it's quick if it's less than a minute. So those are not measurable success criteria, but we'll have a look at some examples of what is a measurable success criterion in a moment. So looking at the first part, task 6, and I've broken that down into two separate parts, so there's 6A and 6B. So requirements, the equipment. This section requires you to clearly state the equipment requirements that the end user will require in order to use your program. So find the minimum specification for a PC or tablet that is required to run your program, and your program is going to run on the JVM. I've given you that hint already. But you can also include things such as headphones, webcams, microphones, whatever you need. You should also identify any software that the user must have installed on their computer for this product to work. So then you need to specifically talk about the Java virtual machine or the Java development kit. JDK is what you would want to stick in the search engine. Okay, so that's 6A, requirements, equipment. I don't know if that's a subheading or a sub-subheading. Task 6B, requirements, functionality. This is going to be a bigger section. In this section, you should clearly explain the full functionality of your proposed solution. Exactly what does it do? Okay, every single aspect of the functionality of your proposed solution Okay, all the major features, explaining what each feature does and why it's necessary for this feature to be incorporated within your solution. Yeah, that's justification. So please break it down into set little paragraphs or subparagraphs and explain what the feature is and why it's been included. Okay, really important. If you want to get 10 marks out of 10, you need to have justification every time. So moving on to task 7, and this is the last task for the whole of the analysis. Task 7, success criteria. You must list a number of measurable success criteria for your program. This should include an explanation of why this is an important feature of the solution. Okay. What I will say to you is make it into a numbered list, because it's going to get used for cross-reference in the evaluation phase right at the end. Okay, to ascertain whether or not your program has met these essential requirements. It's good practice to discuss the success criteria with your main client. I don't want you saying, oh, I wanted this and I want that and so on. It'd be really important, really good if you could get your client or your users to sort of drive the success criteria. They might tell you what their success criteria are. They might say it must be able to do this and it must be, but you've got to steer away from things like fun and engaging and colourful, because those don't mean anything because you can't measure them just the way that I've said them there. Okay, so success criteria, really important. Before I talk about the examples, people say, oh, how many success criteria should I have? How many success criterion should I have? Well, this is a big project, so, you know, I don't like to put a number on it really, but people ask, so I'll say, you know, more than 5 surely, but less than 20. Yeah, because if you start going up to 20, then you have got a lot of stuff that you're going to document, and you know, a lot of things that you might not meet as well, I suppose. Anyway, so examples of success criteria. So here I've written 2 examples that I've got. Please don't just copy these into your stuff. You might say, oh, I'm going to have something similar, and that's fine. The layout is the thing that I want to put across here. So examples of success criteria. 1, login. So I made a nice little heading there, and I've got A and B. You don't have to lay it out quite like that, but you do have to say what the criterion is. A login screen will enable existing users to enter their username and password. So that's the one that I've got. You might have a login screen that just has usernames. That's fine, whatever. Justification. To ensure that only authorized users are able to log in and run the program without having to re-register. This will also ensure that unauthorized users cannot run the program without going through the registration process. So there you can see I've got a clearly laid out criterion and the justification to go alongside it. Okay, and it's measurable. A login screen will enable existing users to enter their username and password. So that indicates that there will be a login screen. It's going to have 2 little text fields where people can enter their username and password. Next one, permanent score storage criterion. Users' scores for each test will be permanently stored in a relational database. So is that measurable? Users' scores for each test will be, yeah. So here the test would be maybe you would go through a test as a user, and we would expect your score to be stored in a relational database, and we could prove that with print screens and so on. Justification. This data will be used to provide the user with feedback on their historical progress for each section of the quizzes that they've completed. Okay, so there's 2 examples of things which are measurable. The feedback from centers gave us 3 examples of things that are not measurable, and it's really important. So make sure the success criteria is numbered. You clearly identify things like skill level. Maybe if you're doing a game, the game will have 3 different levels of computer opponent: easy, medium, and strong. So that's a measurable criterion. Justification. Well, you might say justification is enabling 3 different levels of computer-based skill. Means that beginners will be able to access the game and play it and perhaps have some success and start learning and so on. And you can justify that. Okay, so just before we finish off, I'll just remind you what the 4 sections were according to the OCR specification: problem identification, stakeholders, researching the problem, and specifying the proposed solution. When we come back in September, your analysis section will be complete. Okay, so it's really important that we get all these things done. If you do a search for OCR H446 exemplar, then click on the top one and you'll find here is one of the examples that OCR has set out. This is set A high, so this should be a good one. And you can scroll down and you can look at their analysis section. So those are the tasks that we've got. You need to make sure that you proofread your work as well. Please bear in mind you don't get written feedback for this so that you can improve it. The stuff that you submit is the stuff that gets marked. Okay, so you need to proofread it. You need to self-assess using the traffic light system that I've previously described and make improvements where necessary. Do not try to get ahead of the game and start the design phase in the summer holidays. If you do finish the analysis section, you think, well, this is 10 marks worth. If you think you've done it, then what you can do is you can do some little test projects. You can do mini projects of what you're doing, get the skills set up, do some extra research, and you might decide, I think I'm going to document this as well. But don't start moving on to the design section, and let's get this stuff done. Okay, bye bye.